Hey, hey guys. Tonight we have Ryan Paul Tremblay on He Said, She Said. This is a long time coming because this is something that we needed on this podcast. He's a fan of Ultraman. So so there's that deal. Also, he has an Instagram, Facebook, and X. He's an author. He seems like he's a member of the NADP, and he has Whisper to a Scream and Monster Radio. He's half of it and stuff, and he seems like an all-around nice guy. So
thank you.
Welcome to He Said, She Said.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this Friday night.
It's my pleasure.
This is kind of an odd time for us. I don't think we've done a Friday night before.
I don't think so. Never.
Oh, really?
We've done Sunday nights. We've done like Wednesday, Thursday nights, and then of course during the day when we're out in the field. But this is a new one for us. So
very nice.
Let's rock on.
And you know, before we get into it, I'm always jealous of guys with hair. Do you like metal, punk? I mean, what are you into for music?
Oh God, I'm very eclectic when it's music, but I like, punk. I like the Ramones. I like Megadeth, Metallica, Rob Zombie, Ozzy Osbourne. I'm all over the place.
Monster Magnet?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I knew it.
For sure.
Excellent.
Well, you're so well versed in all these cryptids and all these things. So really, where do we begin? I mean, what would you like to talk about? It's your show.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about Goatman and Wendigo, yeah?
Yeah.
You want to start with
absolutely.
You want to start with the Wendigo, or do you want to start with Goatman? Up to you.
I think Goatman, because Stephanie has some interest in them, and she went and did a video about the bridge. Tell them, Stephanie.
Yeah, so we were in Kentucky a lot. I've been there several times. And of course, down there's what's called, there's a bridge there with a goat man. And we've had some pretty wild experiences. I've never visually seen him, but definitely had the experience where what happens is it's this old railroad trestle. And it is said that he lures people up to the top of the trestle where they die because it's an active trestle. There's trains that go there all the time. And we actually, the first time we were there, well, it was the second time I was there. It was with my Sasquatch team, and we were going actually to the Cryptid Con. But so we stopped there, and something came over me, and it was like something was just saying, you have to get to the top of this trestle. It was the craziest thing, right? Because I've been in the paranormal field for 1,000 years. I know all this. I know what to do to protect myself. Still it happened. And by golly, I was gonna climb that fence and get up beyond it and get up to the public trestle and find out what was going on.
Wow.
And my friend Katie, who's my best friend ever, and she's always with me, and she's like, Steph, you can't do that. I'm like, yeah, I need to get up there. There's something pulling me there. I need to go. And she's like, well, no, because if you go, then I have to go. And that's just not a good thing.
Not at all.
Something just came over me, and I think that might have been it. I'm not really sure. But it just dissipated then. Whatever that was that took a hold of me for a minute was gone. And I'm like, what was I just doing? It was like unbelievable. But we did a live video from there. And what turned up was, Jason, do you have that photo by chance that you can show? It's quite amazing, actually. It's like
I don't have it available here, but it is.
It looks like the face of a goat man behind us.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a photo of you guys, of Stephanie and her crew, and Stephanie looks kind of visibly sick.
Yeah.
And like right behind him and kind of over him, there's a very distinct like goat face in the background there, and it's a really spooky picture.
I bet.
Yeah, it really is. And when you watch the video, she's visibly shaken up, and It's interesting. And around here, we have kind of a similar thing. We have a goat man legend that's just a few minutes from here. That's around a bridge.
Right.
And again, very kind of spooky feeling. Very different than like Bigfoot or Dogman or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
yeah, I
so-
mean, I wouldn't even actually really qualify the goat man as a cryptid, because I mean, cryptid definition is, it's a undiscovered animal. I
Mhm.
don't think that goat man falls into the animal category. I think that's more supernatural or paranormal, maybe even metaphysical, because legends say the thing has like telekinesis. It can read the minds of the people near the train bridge, and it lures them up there purposely using this telekinesis. So
Mhm.
would he cryptid? I don't think so. I think he's something
No.
far more supernatural.
like an apparition type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, look at the way he looks too. I mean, if you look at him as opposed to like Baphomet, it's one and the same. So you got to kind
It
of
is.
wonder how strong those supernatural ties really are.
Hmm
Mhm. Mhm.
That is
Well-
that is very interesting there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's spooky. And a couple of years later, we were back down there again, and we did more of a paranormal investigation there a couple of times. Actually, we went back twice, and
Mhm.
we did get some crazy EVPs going on there, and some things we just can't explain. And we talked to a lot of people down there, and one kid, he must have been 20-ish, I would say, at the Waffle House. Okay, at the Waffle House of all things.
Ooh.
Talked about this creature that he had seen, not at the public trestle, but somewhere close by, and scared to death. He was scared to death just talking about it, So
Really?
I don't know
You-
what's down there, but I mean, it's scary. It's whatever,
You're the
and
one
it's lured so many people to their death.
You're the one
Yeah,
that should have been scared to death to be in Waffle House.
I love the Waffle House. Come on, they have good waffles and grits, and come on, you guys.
She's not wrong. They got good waffles there, man. They do.
And
Throw
good
some
grits
respect
too.
on Waffle House, man. Come on now.
Listen, I'm in Minnesota, and we have nothing like that here. So, as you know, that's the first thing. If I can get to a Waffle House, I go.
No, Goatman though is really interesting though, because unlike most entities, he actually has different origins. There's not just one origin story attached to him. There's numerous ones. I mean, there's that story of that lab technician Thomas Fletcher who was working on some kind of experiments, and he became a half man, half goat. Then you got the other origin where he was supposed to be a farmer that was sacrificing goats for satanic powers.
Yeah.
That kind of ties into what I was saying about the Baphomet thing.
Yes. Yeah. There's something very kind of dark usually about it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, you can see graffiti all over the place saying Goatman was here, so it does make you wonder if there's something to this. I know for a while they believed that it was kids doing this kind of stuff. There was just pranks because the sightings would stop during the school time. During summer and the spring break, that's when the sightings would go up. But I don't think that's what it was. I think it's because more people are out during summer break and spring break. So, they're going up there to see if there's anything there. Rebellious kids, if there's something dangerous, they're going to go up there to find out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
can't stop them. So
Yes.
I don't think it's kids running amok. I really do not.
No.
And also, on kids too, you take your girlfriend there and you're looking to maybe scare each other. And then like when you do have an encounter, you're not so eager to come forward with your encounter, because then you got to start answering questions. Maybe what were you doing
Right.
there and stuff like that. And it does
Right.
kind of seem like there's like a little bit of a nefariousness that kind of follows around the various Goatman legends and tellings.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is why I don't personally research that one. I don't physically try to get out there to look for it, because that's one that actually creeps me out. And I'm the guy who studies the Wendigo and the Skinwalker. So for me to get creeped out by Goatman, there's something to that.
Now,
that is
would
kind
you
of
put,
odd.
would you put that in the same category as devil dogs?
Yeah, I would. Yes, because I mean, like, we don't ever find Goatman footprints, okay? And I think we have just like some photos that are possibly Goatman, but a lot of people are saying they're hoaxes or there's something else. So we don't really capture this guy on camera all too often. Now, Stephanie might have done it, but we don't see any physical evidence of this guy. So I definitely think that devil dogs, or even like the Wendigo itself and Goatman might be kind of in the same category.
That's kind of where I was leaning towards some of the blending of the similarities between like Wendigo and Goatman, and and there's like a weird awkwardness to those figures.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very strong, thick supernatural veil to both of them. And with the Wendigo, it's rightfully so, because a lot of people will tell you that the Wendigo is like a hairy beast that's roaming the countryside, but that's not how the Algonquin, the Cree, or the Ojibwe originally spoke about it. How they spoke about this was it was an entity that could enter a human body after certain cultural taboos were broken. Now, cannibalism is the most well-known, but if you actually look into the lore even more, curses are another way Wendigo, so somebody could get possessed.
Now, would that be like they're trying to place curses on somebody, and so then they end up accidentally being cursed with Wendigo, or Wendigo is the result of somebody cursing somebody else?
The Wendigo is the result of the curse. There's a story from long back where a man was trying to seduce the daughter of a shaman. And this man wasn't really what the shaman pictured for his daughter, and he kept pursuing her. So in order to get him away from his daughter, the shaman cursed this man to actually become the Wendigo. So, in their culture, when you become Wendigo, it's not like you're just outcast. No, you're pretty much executed. They don't want you around, so you're a dead man. So he did this in order to actually get rid of this suitor for his daughter. It's a really extreme way of doing something, but lo and behold, it worked. I mean, he didn't become his son-in-law, so I guess it worked out to the shaman's plan.
As the father of a daughter, I understand. Hey,
I will never question that. So if that's what you guys got to do, just don't turn me into a Wendigo. We'll be open. We'll be fine.
So how is that different than like a Skinwalker?
A Skinwalker, what that is, Yinaralushi, that's what the Navajo, the Dene called them. It's a shaman that starts out on the right path. So they're studying, their religious practices, they're studying the chants and the ceremonies, but somewhere along the way, they go down this dark path where they become selfish, they become greedy, and they realize that this power that they have can be used for self-gain. So Yinaralushi will sacrifice somebody who's close to this person, be it a wife, a husband, a daughter, a son, a grandmother, and they do this in order to take the black arts into them. And by doing this, they can use the pelts of different animals, most notably predatory animals, like coyotes, mountain lions, things like that, to actually shapeshift into animals.
Oh, interesting. Now, the Wendigo, have you seen one of those? Did I lose you, Ryan?
It seems like he froze. Are you there?
Oh, he did for a minute there. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Am I right in understanding that you have actually seen a Wendigo?
No, I haven't personally seen a Wendigo, but I do very deep dives into the Wendigo. I actually have contacts that I speak to.
Oh, we're losing you.
Did we blink out?
That's probably that Wendigo stuff there. It's affecting our broadcast.
You guys, I won't say that word. I grew up.
Yeah, the Wendigo's you get to talk about it, guys.
There we go. Have we cleared up a little for you now?
They don't like to talk about it. They really do not like to talk about the Wendigo.
So that's interesting.
So who are some of your contemporaries?
How do you mean?
You might have lost me. People that you pal around with that are into this stuff. I mean, like, is there many other people who are Wendigo people or anything?
No, really. I mean, Wendigo is something that a lot of people don't really cover all too much. Aside from Chad Lewis and Kevin Lee Nelson, there's not really a lot of people that look into this topic at all. And I always found that to be a shame, because we talk about the Wendigo so often, but nobody does the research. And it kind of clicked with me that, how can we talk about it if we don't research it? Are we actually relaying the real stories of this thing if we're not looking into it? We're not. So somebody has to do it, right? So that's
right on. Yeah,
That's you.
And the timing is kind of good for like that kind of research right now, because a lot more people are becoming accepting of like interdimensional things, and it starts to like open the doors to like, well, maybe these things that used to be dismissed as supernatural have like an interdimensional aspect to them that suddenly starts making them much more palatable to a broader sense of people.
Do you think?
Right. Well, not just that though, but I mean, if you go around like TikTok and Instagram, you'll see a lot of people having these strange encounters going, oh, it's a Wendigo, oh, it's a Skinwalker, but it's not, and there's a lot of miscommunication from the Native American tribes to what people are trying to say they really are. And I think it was an ideal time to strike while the proverbial iron was hot and to show the people this is what they really said. This is what they were presenting to you. And you can no longer ignore this. You have to pay attention to it because these things started with these people. So if they know what these things are, they know better than any of us ever will. So that's why I speak to these people and I get the real translations. I get the actual real stories and I bring them back to, my shows or the shows that I go on so people know what we're dealing with.
And do you feel that there's like elemental, like, is there something to do with the elemental in the Goatman and that kind of stuff too? Or it's not really something I really understand a whole bunch, but I was just wondering what you would have to say about that.
With Goatman, I'm not really sure he'd be considered an elemental. I mean, maybe a forest spirit of sorts, but with Wendigo would definitely be a winter elemental, because if you look at the stories, the Wendigo only surfaces during the coldest seasons, so like summer and spring, it's fine. Even at near the end of the fall, there's no big worry. But once winter hits, that's when the fear of the Wendigo really amplifies and it kicks in, and people are terrified to hear the cry of the Wendigo.
And it seems like it's more akin to like Native Americans also, right?
Yes. And my theory on that is, if it's an entity, it must be something in the bloodline of those people. And there might be something to the land, like it's actually bound to that land. It has to stay to that land and to those people in order to have its power. Because if it drifts away too far, it doesn't have that fear. It doesn't have the resolution that it does with those tribes.
What if too, like, wintertime, that's also when deer have their antler. And if that's antler and not horn, do you think they shed it?
You know what? Actually, I'm really happy you brought that up, because the original Wendigo was never depicted as something like this, like, a stag-headed creature. Okay. Normally, they were closer to how people view the rake. Very pale skinned, very, very skinny, very aggressive, very long limbs, and like they would chew their lips away from their constant hunger. They would chew their lips and their fingertips away because they were constantly hungry for flesh. But what happened with the description is it was kind of melded with Norse mythology. Okay. So they took, the Algonquin and Cree stuff and they blended it with the Norse, and that's how you get the stag-headed Wendigo.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That is kind of, that's super interesting, actually. So it's kind of it's like a combination of Native American with Norse.
Yeah, and that was actually very common, because once like Europeans came over, they started interbreeding the werewolf lore with the Wendigo lore. That's why people think, oh, you can become a Wendigo under a full moon, because they're, it's interweaving and they're taking little details and putting what they like in that story to make it seem more frightening.
Okay. That's super interesting. Now, where do you see Dogman fitting into like that whole kind of thing?
Well,
I was just going to say, there's a segue.
My interpretation of Dogman and werewolves is it's kind of simple, really, that people in Europe were actually seeing the Dogman because it's bipedal. You know, they were very superstitious back in those days, and they didn't have science like we do now. So when they saw a bipedal canine, they're like, "Oh, that was a man or a woman at some time." You know, and so I think the ancient Europeans, they glimpsed the Dogman and they gave birth to the werewolf legends.
To the people morphing into the wolf-like entity.
Yeah, because
Oh,
the
that's
Europeans back then, they loved horror stories. Okay, so if they saw a Dogman, they were going to sit there and they're going to sit around campfires and go, "Oh, well, that thing that we saw in the woods was this guy from this village, and he committed this crime, so he was turned into a beast." You know, they're not going to have the logic that we have and go, "Oh, well, maybe it's a species all its own." You know, because the science wasn't there, the learning wasn't there yet. You know, so whereas we know that they might be two separate entities, they just merge them together.
It's a lot easier for us to share stories too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so have you seen a Dogman?
I did, yeah, except mine didn't look like a wolf. Mine was more hyena-like in appearance. And it wasn't one of those big Arnold Schwarzenegger build kind of thing. He was kind of built like a basketball player. But I did have my own encounter here in southern Arizona, yeah.
He was like tall and lanky?
Yeah, he was about, maybe when he was standing on two legs, he was about 6.5 feet tall. But he was very lanky. He wasn't really muscular, you know, but he was still foreboding, though. I mean, when I looked at him, you know, I didn't know what I was looking at. So I'm like, I am going to die. But yeah, I didn't think he was going to Arnold Schwarzenegger me or anything like that. So
how long was that encounter?
That was about 3 years ago now.
How long was the encounter itself?
Trying to think. Time passes by so quickly when you're having something like that. It might have felt like an hour, but it was 5 minutes. You know, so I'd say probably a couple of minutes at length. You know, that was it, because we just kind of stared at each other. You know, and he did a little bluff charge just to see what I would do, but he didn't try to attack me. He wasn't really showing any aggression, like he wanted to hurt me. I think I scared him almost as much as he scared me.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, because I mean, he was giving me that look. You know, he was tilting his head side to side. He knew like dogs do when they're curious.
Yeah,
and I could see his ears going up and down. So I think he was kind of looking at me like, you're not running and you're not doing anything. So what do we do? Is this a stalemate? You know, who's going to move first? And luckily, he decided he was going to move first. So it worked out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. This reminds me of something I heard a very wise man say: fantastic claims require fantastic proofs. And that was from you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep. That's one of my Obi-Wan moments right there.
Okay.
No pictures, no evidence. It's just all in your mind, what you saw.
Exactly. Right. Pretty much. I mean, if I had a camera, I don't know that I would have tried to take a picture of the Dogman that I saw. Because I mean, thinking that over, had I pulled anything up really quickly, I think that could have been the trigger where he was like, "Oh, so you're brave, huh?" You know, and thank God I didn't do that. Really, it's really a good thing.
I just wonder if you would have taken a picture if there would have been anything there. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I think they're other dimensional.
Well, I mean, he was definitely physical at the moment, because we did find the scuff marks in the ground where he had bluff charged.
Right.
So he was definitely physical while he was here. But I do agree with you, Stephanie. I think they're interdimensional, that they go somewhere else, but when they're here in our dimension, that's when they become solid.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Sasquatch.
All right. I've waited all this time. I have to ask you about the silver platter experience.
Oh, you heard about that, huh? Okay. So in my research area, it's a riverbed. It's a long stretch of riverbed. We have washways here in Arizona, okay? And on both sides, there's very steep hills. It's kind of like the foothills. And I would go there basically every weekend, and I would spend hours out there, and I would go as far as I could. And one day I had gone maybe 7-8 miles into the riverbed, and I noticed onto the side that the area was cleared out. It looked like somebody had actually dug that area out. And lo and behold, right in the center, there's this big mound made of dirt and clay and mud. And on top of that mound, there's a silver platter, with all these exotic fruits. And I mean like kiwis, I mean pineapples, shredded coconut. And I'm kind of sitting there going, well, why are there these fruits out in the middle of the desert? What? You know, so logically, I thought maybe they're feeding the javelinas, but then javelinas can't reach that, you know, because it was about maybe 4 feet tall. Okay. So javelinas can't climb that, so they can't eat the fruit. So I just kind of left it. I was like, I don't want to touch it. I don't know who it belongs to, but I'll come back again and I'll check to see if there's anything new. Every time I went back, the fruits were fresh. So somebody was replacing these fruits. They were making it a point to do so. So I got really curious and I took a pad of paper and I asked them, all right, who are you feeding out here? And I left it under the platter. I went back about maybe a week, 2 weeks later, and my note was replaced by a drawing. Okay. And the drawing said, we're feeding these. And they drew a bipedal hyena, just like I had seen. So I knew whoever was out here, whoever was feeding these things, had seen the same exact thing that I had seen.
That is one of the best stories I've ever heard in my life, man. That is awesome.
Kind of creepy, though. It's kind of creepy because you know, they know those things are there.
Yeah.
You know, and they wouldn't tell me who they were. So I'm like, well, could you come forward and talk to me a little bit, please?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Do you the who was doing the feeding? Do you think they were local, or do you think they were maybe like very far away?
You know, it's hard to say because there weren't really any houses that were really close by to where I was. So I think whomever was feeding these things, they were traveling a good distance to come out and replace that fruit.
That's
like
interesting.
An homage to them or something. Yeah.
It's like they were trying to almost habituate them in some sort of fashion. Like they were bringing them to these fruits so they could catch glimpses of them.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Successful.
That was about a year ago, actually. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe a year and a half at most.
That's crazy.
I need to take this opportunity to tell you you have some really strange neighbors in Arizona.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Why do you think I always take my dog with me, man? Because if there's going to be anybody crazy, it's like, get crazy with my dog because he'll take care of you. So,
No doubt.
mm-hmm.
No doubt.
How far? So your research area, is it nearby like a town, or is it like out in the boonies, or what is it?
It's out in the boonies. I used to live in a small mining town, so you could follow the riverbed really far out and you would be surrounded by absolutely nobody. And this is why I was always so careful because, you know, if I got hurt at night or whatever, there was no one around that could hear me call for help. So, you know, but yeah, it's out in the middle of nowhere and it's very quiet and it's got, you know, trees and everything. I know people, when they hear Arizona, they think, oh, it's just straight desert. No, there was actually a lot of trees there and, you know, it was perfect for something to hide.
Yeah.
Would those be like pine forests?
No, more like, you know, elm trees, things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, there's a reason that when I used to go at night, you know, it looked like I was suiting up for aliens. You know, I had the flashlight on my shoulders and, you know, I had all kinds of stuff. Only thing I didn't have was that motion detector, and that would have been really handy.
Yes.
Yeah.
As I understand it, were you originally from Mass?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever been to the Bridgewater Triangle or American Stonehenge or?
Of course, I went to all those things. My dad was a monster and cryptid enthusiast too when I was growing up. So anything supernatural or paranormal, my dad's like, "Oh, I'm taking you there. You're going to be experiencing this stuff." So,
nice.
So you're second generation and cryptid enthusiast.
Yeah, I mean, he actually kind of got me started in the whole cryptid thing because I loved monsters. As you know, Tommy said, I love Ultraman, Godzilla, King Kong. But my dad, he actually grew up with, you know, the Cajun family. So he decided to start telling me about the Rougarou. Yeah. You know, and as a little kid, I was like, Rougarou, that's a funny word, Dad. You know, but he took it serious. So like, don't make fun of the Rougarou when he was around because he got offended. He got very offended. When my friends made fun of it, he was just like, you know, ready to backhand them. So
don't use that word lightly, huh?
Yeah. So he introduced me to the Rougarou. Then he showed me the Patterson-Gimlin film. And that right there, I fell in love with Bigfoot. You know, Patty, I was like, oh, that's my girl. So he started my on this path. Yeah.
That's interesting that there's not a lot of second generation cryptid guys among us.
Right.
Cryptid guys and girls. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Well, Stacy Brown and Stacy Brown Jr.
Right.
But that's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah. With my dad, though, he didn't go out looking for them. I think my dad knew stuff he wasn't telling me. I mean, he would tell me about wood boogers and rougarou, but he never went looking. And I always wondered, do you know where they are or something, Dad? Because you don't even go looking for them. So, I think my dad knew stuff.
Where did he grow up?
He actually grew up in Louisiana for a while.
Okay.
So that's where he got the strong belief for the rougarou. And then when he was younger, I think he was about in his 20s when he moved to Massachusetts, where he met my mom. So,
similar French background?
oh yeah. Okay. You had my mom, who all our relatives came from Canada. We were all French Canadians, and then my dad had all the French people on his side. So we're Frenchmen through and through.
That's my mom's side. That's very similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question from Bill Rigby, and he'd like to know what your favorite Godzilla movie is.
Oh, that's almost a Sophie's choice. Wow. There's something I love about all of them, but if I had an absolute favorite, I'd say Godzilla 1985, because that's the movie that made me afraid of Godzilla. There's the way they portrayed him, and he was brutal, and he just didn't like humans at all. That generally made me afraid of Godzilla, and I was like, yeah.
That's
a little different from the Raymond Burr.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the way they portrayed him, because in Godzilla 1985, he did not care for humans at all. I mean, he made it a point to stomp on a poor security guard, and that wasn't even in his way. So it's like, wow, man, Godzilla's a beast.
Yeah, you don't really have the fear of him in the older movies. You kind of cheer him on a little bit.
Right.
Well, I mean, Toho, during the 60s, they realized, hey, we have a market for kids. So they kind of friendlied him down, and they made him look friendlier, even appearance-wise. They kind of making him look like a puppet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then they realized, oh, well, adults like this too. So let's go back to the darker roots, which I'm really grateful they did.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Have you seen the latest Godzilla?
Godzilla -1? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I absolutely love that movie. I fell in love with that one. I'm going to see it for the 5th time next weekend. So
that's awesome. That's awesome, because a lot of times when people talk about liking things for a long time, it's not very often that you hear them say that a modern one is so good.
Yeah, well, I mean, Toho knocked it out of the park. They knew that we wanted that allegory Godzilla again, where he represented something about war. And with -1, they did such a good job. They showed that he was brutal and he did not want to be around humanity, and that he was savage. He was back to his monster roots, and I think it's about time they did that.
That's awesome, and a little dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which takes you back down to Wendigo and the Goat Man and such as that.
Yeah, correct.
And the same with Dogman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you look at all three of those, they're not really bright, bubbly kind of things. There's always some kind of horror story attached to each one of them. So
now around here, me and Tommy are in Northwest Pennsylvania, and we have a lot of burial mounds around here. Some are pretty good sized. And it seems like in those areas, there's also a lot of Dogman sightings. And we've kind of often wondered if maybe there's a connection between Dogman and burial sites, kind of like the Egyptian, didn't they have dog-like figures that
Anubis?
Yeah, they had Anubis. They had his brother too, Whippawet, and it was his brother.
Oh yeah.
So, and the Egyptians actually had the city of werewolves. I don't know if you guys have looked into that yet.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, there's a city called the City of Werewolves, and it was supposed to be ruled over by Whippawet. That was Anubis's brother. And yeah, you see all kinds of effigies of werewolf-like creatures over there.
That's really, really cool. That's really cool. Now, and not very far from here, over in Eastern Ohio, there's some very good sized pyramids and stuff over in that area that ended up getting deconstructed.
Yeah, it was a shame.
Yeah. And again, you get that crossover with Dogman into death and protecting things, and a little darker, much darker side than say Sasquatch.
Right. Well, I mean, there's the earliest stories of Dogman. There was a security guard who actually encountered a Dogman in a graveyard, and allegedly, this Dogman spoke to him. Now, you'll get different stories on what was said, but pretty much what it translated to was he on the mountaintop. So take from that what you will. I mean, was he talking about like some kind of god that was at the mountaintop, or is that where he came from? Maybe. But with native beliefs connected to the land, though, that's very, very important. I always take that very, very seriously, too, because a lot of tribes believe that the land was given to them by their gods. Okay. So they're held very sacred, and there's tremendous energies in those lands. So if a Native American tells you, hey, there's certain energies here, you don't want to mess around with those, please, by all means, take him serious and don't mess with those.
Yeah. That's super cool. That's super cool. Yeah.
Well, and I'm in Minnesota, surrounded by Ojibwa, and I've been taught for many years, you don't even say that W word,
Right.
unless you want bad things to happen. So I know when these guys said, "Hey, you want to talk about that tonight?" I'm like, okay, notice I've been so quiet, you guys. The whole, because I'm always surrounded by Ojibwa people
it's a terrifying
they
topic.
hand down their beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so many people make light of it, and it's just like, when you really sit down and you look into the actual lore, you kind of sit back flabbergasted going, how can you make light of this? This is terrifying.
You can't. Yeah. They will not say the word, they just will say,
Well, it is kind of revenge for me and Tommy, Stephanie, because you've dragged us down a couple of places that maybe we weren't very comfortable with. So, yeah,
they got you, Stephanie. They got you.
But and that's
like what? I haven't.
And that's one of the wonderful things about like the Bigfoot world is like you start out with, all right, there's a remnant bipedal out there in the woods, and then you start to question that, and you start to get into interdimensional things, and suddenly like now, like when me and Tommy first started, like we kind of refused to deal with anything that we felt was supernatural, mostly not because we wanted to deny its existence, but we weren't comfortable going there.
I don't blame you.
It made us very uncomfortable, and then as we've kind of gone along, that maybe sometimes we enjoy that discomfort.
I think I'm the same way. Yeah, I'm the same way. When I do my Skinwalker investigations, people are like, aren't you afraid? I'm like, yeah, I'm terrified, but I'm going anyway. So,
that's right. Yeah. That's the attitude, man.
Yes.
Do I want to see a Skinwalker though? No, absolutely not. I do not. I refuse to see one, but I still want to do the research though.
That's kind of that's one of the differences between like that and say Bigfoot. Almost everybody that's going out looking and investigating would love to catch sight of Bigfoot and Sasquatch. But when you start looking at Dogman and Goatman and those dark and awkward things, like, I'm not sure I want to come across them.
Yeah, I think it's some of those tales, they're violent and they're bloody. I mean, with Sasquatch, you hear more about the gentle interactions. Well, gentle, you don't hear about them chasing somebody down and eating them. But with Skinwalkers or Wendigo or Goatman, you hear so many stories of casualties.
Well, and it's true. I mean, look at the public trestle. I mean, I don't know what the number is of people that have died. And I felt it myself, right? So there was something there. And I'm someone who was big on protection, right? I've been a paranormal investigator for years. I'm in the woo, firmly in the woo, as these guys would say. I'm a little witchy, have abilities that were passed down to me from others in my family. So for me to allow something like that to take control, it snuck right in there, right? And I had no idea. So what it was, I don't know, a little scary, but I would love to go back there at some point. Yeah,
you got to be super, super careful. And, I'm always telling those kids that want to go out looking for the Skinwalker, I'm like, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it, period.
Yeah.
Just don't think you can tamper with something like that and just walk away from it. What are you going to do? Yell at it to make it go away? It's not going to work. Once you have its attention, it's like, okay, you want to be here. I'm here. So now what?
Yeah. And
No,
we have
I
gone
was
searching. We have gone searching for Dogman too, because we've heard stories, we've had eyewitnesses, and so we've
Yeah.
been out on those dark, remote roads of northern Minnesota. Not just us
Ooh.
girls, And
Ooh.
I firmly believe, and if something's, like Josie, for example, all of a sudden she's like, "We gotta go." Why?
Mhm.
No, we gotta go. Firmly, we left. I don't know
Yo,
what was
that's
out
the
there, but something, got her.
that's
So.
instinct kicking in, man. That's your gut
It
instinct. You can
is. It
never
is.
ever
And
ignore that.
always listen. Always listen. Even if, because we're all really intuitive on the team. And so it's like, well, I'm not feeling anything, but I trust you. So let's get out of here, because who knows
Right.
what could happen,
Mhm.
Well,
But yeah.
Smart.
and that was
Hey,
very astute of her to put you in a position where if you went any farther, you would be adversely affecting her,
yep,
and so then that
yep,
makes that brought you around because you weren't going to do that. Now, if it
Yeah,
had
that was a
just
smart move.
if it just been your own self, then
right.
who?
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
well, Ryan. I'm getting the feeling that you like Dr. Trost. You're very well read, and
Mhm.
Dante's Inferno. Um, what do you have? What would be a brief synopsis of like the ice and the fire and all that stuff about like people's hearts that were in cryptozoology and that kind of thing? Like, can you really say anything to Dante's Inferno?
I can say it was one hell of a book. It was one hell of a read that I've read it many times, and it was a great video game too. I don't know if you were aware that it was a video game.
I
No.
wasn't.
Yeah, it's a very, very good graphic and very bloody video game. But it's something that I recommend you play.
Now,
I
would
do.
that be like 90s video game or
No, this
semi?
was probably, I'd say about 2010, 2012.
Uh-huh.
But it follows a guy who's part of the Knights Templar, and his name, of course, is Dante. And he actually he gets killed, but you find out that he committed all these atrocities in his life, and he's having to pay for all these atrocities by having to face the different sins. And these sins take the form of monsters and demons.
That's kind of funny that Tommy brings up that because that's normally not territory he likes to venture into.
Mhm.
This is Dr. Trost area right there.
Yes, yeah,
Oh, breaking some molds here tonight, huh?
yeah, yeah. And that's one of the fun things about the cryptid stuff is it kind of does take you down some of those paths that maybe
Oh, boy, does it ever.
hesitant to
Mhm.
before.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I was the same way with the Skinwalkers. I used to just kind of dismiss them and go, "Oh, it's just folklore." But I started talking to more and more people, and I started thinking, "Well, wait a minute, there's something to this." And
Mhm.
as I started watching videos and hearing other people speak on them, I was like, "Well, that can't be right." So, being in Arizona, I can speak to Navajo people, and I did get some to actually open up to me. And man, when they started telling me their original tales of them, I got scared. I was like, okay,
yeah.
I'm not going to go find one. I'm just going to listen to you, but I'm not going to go look for one. I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh.
And there's some interesting, like, for the most part, when you look into like Native American stuff, most of the time Bigfoot is treated as a positive.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some out there in the West that kind of attribute to maybe he's something dark released by like uranium mining and stuff like that. And that some
Not
are
just the West, not just the West. In Canada, you have what's known as the Genosqua. And the Genosqua are said to have actually hunted people from the tribe. They would come down from the mountains, and they were so brash and so arrogant that they would whistle before they got to these villages just to kind of taunt the people in that village. And as they scattered, these Bigfoot would pick them off and take them back to their caves and eat them.
oh
Is
wow.
that a Stonish giant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. What the name actually translates to is stone coats.
Oh, nice. And they
what
they do? They did something with their fur.
Yeah, what they would do is they said the Genosqua were so savvy that they would roll in mud and roll in sap. Then they would roll in the river stones because the arrowheads they used back then wouldn't penetrate the stones. So they had an applique armor,
Yep.
you know, so when they were raiding the villages, these braves would be shooting them with their bows and arrows, and it would just ding, 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 bounce right off.
All right.
And then these had a giant stature too.
Oh, yeah, they were incredibly tall. They said, you know, 9, 10, 11, 12, even 13 or 14 feet tall. And they were very raw. They were very monstrous.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's
Wow.
crazy. That's
Then
crazy.
you have the Nuckluck as well, and the tribes were so afraid of the Nuckluck that once they got the firearms, the guns that they could use, the muskets, they made it a nightly ritual to fire those muskets into the tree line, just to scare away or wound any Nuckluck that were hiding in there.
Oh my.
Ah,
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's kind of
yeah.
that's very because now locally there's a lot of talk of giants. The Allegheny, that maybe even the Allegheny is named after a tribe of giants here.
I have
That
heard that. Yeah.
that at one point were the relations with them and the Native Americans was fine, but eventually there came some kind of conflict that they got wiped
Yep.
out.
Yep.
And
And
it
you know,
seems
I think they wore the masks too, didn't they, Trost?
I don't know about that one. I do know that the Seneca up here had the mask, but I think that was something separate.
Oh,
But I
That's
don't.
the Zuniqua, the basket woman.
I'm not sure about that. Is that something that you're familiar with, Ryan?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The basket woman or the basket ogress was supposed to be a type of Bigfoot or a giant that would roam around and kidnap unruly kids. She would put them in her basket and she would take them back to her cave and feast on them.
Kind of like the Krampus.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's which is kind of like goatish, you know,
But
with
what's
its
really interesting about Zuniqua, though, is there's actual masks and totems that were made of this basket ogress. You know, so when you see these things, it's like, are they really lying about this? Because I mean, they're making these masks. They have ceremonies for the Zuniqua. There has to be something to that. 100%.
yeah, that mask thing it gets awfully interesting and dark and
Yes.
there's
There's
a lot of stuff that as the tribes were sharing with like missionaries and stuff that would get like bastardized and stuff, but it seems like a lot of the Seneca stuff was kept pretty intact and in their own words and stuff, and it's kind of
Yeah.
a weird combination of the very ancient stuff and some of the stuff that we brought over. It's very interesting, and it delves into some of those darker
Yeah.
sides of things.
Yep, it does. It absolutely does. I think with the Seneca, though, is because there wasn't any like hostile takeover of their lands. You know, whereas the Navajo, you had a Trail of Tears, and you had people just pushing them off their land and putting them on reservations. So it was two very different interactions there.
Yeah, and actually around here too, the Seneca they got to a very low point as a society, and Handsome Lake, he had a vision that kind of that propelled the Seneca back into kind of prominence, and he actually
Right.
was not very far from here. These
Mhm.
are kind of his stomping grounds here, and his brother-in-law was a corn planter, and like there's Corn Planter State Forest is one of the places that we like to go stomping around and stuff
Nice.
like that. So it's kind of blended into our own local areas here. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very nice.
now, if we're going to go with the Native Americans, what about Saint Christopher? Do you have anything to say about Saint Christopher?
Oh, the dog-headed saint, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, I think that could possibly tie into something with the dog man. I mean, was there a dog man that behaved really well and they made him a saint? Maybe not, but is there something to that story? I think it's something we can't ignore. I mean, it's something that definitely merits more research and more looking into.
And maybe he brought some attributes to the table that were very needed for the job at hand.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. It's a possibility. I mean, I'm of the mind that with these dogmen, the reason why they're so aggressive these days is something happened. There was something that humans did to them where it really provoked them. And now when they see us, they instantly think, oh, these guys are the enemy. Because you hear of more peaceful encounters from times in the past. So what was it? What was the event that made them slide down this slope of, okay, humans equals bad? What was that?
And earlier you talked about there being a communication, which is most of the time absent from dogman encounters.
Yeah. I mean, there's really not that sense of, there's a camaraderie. Because if you look at the tribes and you look at Bigfoot, there's almost that sense of brotherhood.
Yeah.
You don't have that with Dogman. It's very peculiar that we don't have that.
The one thing that really makes me pause is because I myself had a Dogman sighting too, but he smiled at me, which a lot of people say that, but until you see it, you really can't believe it. Yeah.
Now, was it an actual smile, or was it him baring his teeth?
It was a smile. I mean, it was
like almost like a Joker kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah,
it was pretty wild.
I don't know, man. If the dogman that I saw cracked a smile at me, I definitely have a very messy and involuntary moment.
Gosh.
That would have been it. I would have been done. I would just throw my hands up. They're like, all right, you know what? Whatever's going to happen, curl up into a fetal position, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's a very distinct difference between that and encounters with Bigfoot.
Right.
Yeah. It's worlds apart, really. And you got to wonder why. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. How come earlier dogman encounters were more peaceful, but the more modern day ones are so hostile and aggressive? What event was it that led them towards this constant aggression towards human beings?
That's interesting. Yes.
You may never know.
Yeah. I mean, did they just happen to notice that humans are always warring with each other, or was it, an individual act that something was done to one of their kind? I don't know.
Yeah, and it could be the accumulation of events that we have no idea that are happening.
Yeah, it could be.
Going back to the vocalization with the dogman, where did that happen?
Trying to think, which one are you referring to? Because there's a couple of them.
We talked about it earlier, and I don't remember exactly what was said, but it got us started on the talk of big man or dog man actually vocalizing.
Yeah, talking to people. We did talk about that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember where that's from.
Because we have bounced all over the place.
We're covering all the bases tonight, people.
Yes.
I knew this was going to happen. I was so excited for this interview because I knew you're the only thing that I know that you haven't reported on is the flying rods.
Right. Not yet. Give me time. No, right now I'm more involved in my Wendigo and Dogman stuff and, Skinwalker stuff as well, because the Skinwalkers fascinate me. And I really kind of feel like we owe it to the Dene people, the Navajo, to really put their real traditions out there and stop telling our own versions of it. If we're going to talk about them, we should talk about them how they talk about them. We should believe in them how they believe in them, not how we choose to, but how they have done it.
Yeah. Because that's kind of something that we've also talked about with both Dogman and Bigfoot and stuff. How often are we also projecting our own feelings? Could we be misrepresenting Dogman?
Oh, we definitely could. We definitely could. I mean, let's face it. A lot of the people out there that have these encounters, they don't work at a zoo. Okay. They don't deal with big animals on a daily basis. So when they run into these things, they're not expecting to run into a dogman or a Bigfoot or anything. So when they do finally see these things and this thing behaves in a certain way, to their mind, it's aggression. It's this thing wants to kill me. It doesn't like me and all these different things. But we're not there to interpret the body language. And it's not something that everybody knows how to do.
Mhm.
This is why I'm grateful that I worked at a zoo for a while, because when I see things, I can tell you, well, no, that's not an aggressive posture. That's not an attack posture. That's not something they're trying to hurt you. So I use that in my research, and that's been invaluable for me. And I think people need to start looking into known animals, learn the body language, learn the different pitches of the howls and the noises they make before you assume they're trying to kill you.
Right.
Now,
Yes.
have you ever gone out with like Jody Cook?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Since I'm in Arizona and he's far off, we haven't done it yet. So,
Oh, okay. He's an alumni here.
yes. Jody's a good man.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. He and my dad were in the same outfit in the military, the
Whoa.
80th
Oh, whoa.
infantry. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. So
Very
I thought that was a
nice.
good note. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
That was actually a very cool moment. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, do you think that I'm kind of a conjecture here, but do you think that like someone here who is relatively pure of heart, like, do they have better luck dealing with the dog man than people that are maybe not as well or
I
something?
think so. I think so. I think like most animals, they can sense who you are. You have a certain vibe to you. And if you're not a good person, they're going to pick up on that and, kind of be like another human, be like, get away from me. I'm picking up your vibe. I'm not picking up what you're putting down. So yeah, shoo. And if you're not going to just walk away, I'll scare you away, so
Yeah.
that's what I
If you
think.
can, and like you said too, look at the eyes. That's the best thing to do, yeah.
Look at the eyes, but don't lock eyes with them. The last thing you want to do with a predatory animal is stare them down.
Yeah.
Mm.
Interesting. That is really super cool. That is really super cool.
Dogs know, man. They know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I trust my dog more than I trust humans. If Duke doesn't like somebody, I know you're not a good person.
Yeah.
If
Right
he
on.
reacts aggressive, I'll just be like, yeah, you can't come back. Nope. Duke doesn't like you, so I don't like you. Bye.
That's right.
I agree.
A little bit ago, you said you used to work at a zoo. What did you do at the zoo?
I actually volunteered for a while, and they were teaching me how to, feed the primates and how to feed the other animals. So I got to interact with all these different zoo animals on a daily basis.
That's really cool.
Are you previously or now, were you an X-ray tech?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Just, I thought I heard somewhere that you were. Okay.
No.
But you are an artist. But you're an artist.
Yes, I am.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm a sculptor. I make a lot of predators and everything like that. So, did you want to see one?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I got one right here, actually. Perfect. So, all right, this is the big boy that I made right here. This is all handmade and hand painted. So, I did every single little spot that you see on his body.
What is he made out of?
That is resin. He's resin and clay.
Nice. Now you're sculpting, not printing, right?
Right. This is all sculpting. So, and I even did the little numbers on his gauntlet there. Then you switch it around over here. He's got the glow in the dark blood.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and he's got the back armor. So I didn't skimp on any detail.
Very cool.
Very Alien versus Predator type thing. Oh, that okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. See, you even got his face.
How long do you have into that feller?
This one took me about 3 weeks, and this one's all done. So I'll be making a base for him at some point.
That is awesome.
Very cool.
It's even from the pose from the movie when he's fighting Arnold.
That is very cool.
So yeah, that's what I do.
I like it. Very cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's way cooler than tires, Tommy.
I've tried to sculpt out of tires and I can't do it that
well. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. Thanks for sharing this has been a good dive into Ryan Tremblay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's my pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and thanks for being a member of the group and stuff too, because I can tell your vibe. It's very Cryptovania-ish. So
thank you.
Yes, don't forget the I love it. Yeah, thank you for being on. And if you ever want to come on again, or if something's going on and you want to talk about it,
absolutely, we'll have to do this again very soon. Yes.
Yeah.
If you ever get to Northwest Pennsylvania, please come and see us.
Oh, definitely. I'll come knocking on your door and you'll be like, "Oh no, it's Ryan. Go away."
Because there is a very open invitation to come on up, and that's one of the things that we really like to do is bring people up. And
awesome.
We have a studio set up. There's no Mrs. Cooper, so we have his house, and we've got a couple of studios in there, and we've filmed a couple of things where we brought Tony Merkel of the Confessionals. We brought him and his brother Jack up for the weekend, and
that's cool.
So you have a very, very open invite to come out to Cryptovania.
Yeah, actually, we do.
On that. Be careful. Be careful.
And there's like a burial mound that's like quarter mile from Cryptovania HQ, where we are at. Yeah,
I'll need to get you out here to Arizona though, so I can do some Skinwalker investigations with you and show you what I have to do.
That sounds great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
Excellent.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right. You guys have an awesome night.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
And I'm going to end the stream now.
Okay.
Excellent.